Well, good evening, and welcome to this episode of Let's Talk Shop with Russ. I'm going to stop just saying what episode it is because I forget all the time, and I don't think it's that necessary. I put it on the videos on YouTube, so we're going to forget that part. As soon as the live stream pops up over here on my YouTube channel, I'll be looking for any questions that anyone might be having over on YouTube. So we're going to go ahead and get the ball rolling. We're going to do roll call and tell us where we can find you on the internet or on Facebook. We'll start off. We're going to go from right to left instead of left to right. We're going to start off with Tommy G. Since he was late, he can be the first one.
Yeah, my name's Tommy Gonzalez. You can find me on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram under Tommy G Workshop. And I also have a website in the works at www.tommygworkshop.wix.com/workshop.
If we can all remember that. Oh, and another thing that I remembered last time, a couple of people have been asking me, and I think I mentioned it before on one of the shows, if y'all will put your where we can find you in the comments down after the show's over. Put all your links in the comments. People would really like that, so they can find you very easy, because they find it hard to go back through the show and catch all of it. But it's just something that a lot of people have been emailing me and asking me on Facebook also about that. So don't forget, when the show's over, in the comment section, put all your links down there so people can find you. The next one on the line is Mr. Russ Meadows.
Hey everybody, it's Russ Meadows here. You can find me on Facebook under my name, or on my Facebook page, Rusty Nail Woodworks.
Cool. Then we have John Cousins.
Hey everybody, you can find me on Facebook under John P.A. Cousins, or on my Facebook page, Wood If I Could Scroll Saw Woodworks. That's about it. I'm not a big techie guy. I'm too busy doing a real job to spend all this time on, like Tommy, on Facebook and Twitter and everything else, and Russ as well.
Oh, come on now. We have a good time. It's fun. Next is Mr. Donald Matthews, which is Donald's Vlogflies Woodshop.
Figure out how to unmute myself.
Yeah.
You find me on YouTube, Donald Vlogflies Woodshop, Facebook, Donald Vlogflies Woodshop, Twitter, I'm at Redneck Know-How, and I've got a website, redneckknowhow.com. And then Instagram is just plain Donald Vlogflies, and I think that's everything.
And we're going to leave Dave's the next one on my list, but we're going to leave him till last because he's the star of the show tonight, so to speak. So next is going to be Mr. Chris.
Yeah, Chris Ahern here, and if you don't find me in the local pub, you'll find me out at my workshop, and I have the Old Cranky Workshop on Facebook, and on YouTube you can find me under Chris the Wheeler.
And then we're visiting Dave Gatton's workshop, Dave Gatton's CNC, Sidewinder CNC. So again, had a little problem with the internet the last time, but I think he's got that corrected. Hopefully he's got that corrected. So Mr. Dave, introduce yourself, and I guess we can go ahead and get started.
Okay, thank you, Russ. My name's Dave Gatton. You can find me on YouTube under Dave Gatton, and you can also find me on Facebook and Twitter. On Facebook, it's Dave Gatton Sidewinder CNC, and I have a website, www.cncsidewinder.com, and that's about it.
Cool. So so far so good. Your internet's looking pretty good. I mean,
yeah, it's worked great since I ran that hardwire to the extender or whatever. So now I've got an access point out here instead of just a Wi-Fi extender. So it works good now.
Yeah, it makes a lot of difference. I ended up running hardwire. For a long time I had Wi-Fi out here, and it worked great until I started doing shows. And once that happened, I realized, oh, I got to run hardwire. So
yeah, well, I'd been on shows before with just the Wi-Fi, but I think it was having just the Wi-Fi and the combination of the weather, because we had really crappy weather that night. So
Yeah.
But anyway, got it hardwired now, so all is well.
Okay, so now, what do you want to show us?
What's anybody want to see? I had a lot of stuff out. I was looking around a while ago because I had a lot of stuff out for show and tell the last time. And I think I probably moved it and put it all up, but I've got a few things here. I guess everybody pretty much knows what a CNC will do, but one of the things that everybody seems to like when I show it is this little box here. And I think I've shown this on maybe just some of the Google Hangouts or something, but this is one of the free projects from Vectric, the software that I use. And it's just a V-Carve program, very detailed. It's got the back, front, and the top all has a lot of engraving in it. And so that's a neat way to use a CNC.
That's beautiful. That lid is really like awesome.
Yeah, it's like I said, everybody, I see pictures on Facebook all the time because, like I said, it's a free Vectric project, so I think everybody and their brother's making them right now. But I made that one probably 3 or 4 years ago. Some other things that, if I don't stretch my cord here, that I like to use my CNC for is if I'm going to make this is like a prototype guitar body I made for a friend of mine. But rather than, because this is so thick, rather than use the CNC to cut the whole thing, what I like to do is use the CNC to make the templates that you need to make those. So you still get the accuracy of a CNC, but you're really doing this with the hand router. Templates that you need to make those. Okay.
Now, we talked last week, and since you're standing there, what, on that particular model, what kind of a footprint is it going to have in your shop?
I was going to grab a measuring tape here. The footprint is about, I don't know, it's probably about 50 inches or so, not counting that little, I don't know if you can see it over here, the stepper motor kind of sticks out from the side.
Yeah,
so if you throw that in, it's probably about 53 inches, I guess, that way. Front to back, and again, you can't see them, but there's 2 stepper motors because I use a 4-axis system and use 2 steppers to drive the Y-axis and have them slaved together. But going front to back, it's probably, let's see, probably about 36 inches, maybe front to back.
So about
maybe a little bigger than that. I'm not sure. My cutting area, which is whenever I talk about CNCs, that's what I always like to talk about is what's the actual cutting area. And my cutting area on this one, I can cut 40 inches across the X and about 26, 27 inches front to back. And even though that's not a whole lot front to back, if I really needed to cut something oversized, I could always pull this out from the wall and take down my little dust containment system here and just feed something through and index it. So I'm really only limited by the 40 inches this way. I could really go whatever that way.
Now, indexing, explain that.
Well, that would be like if I'm trying to cut something, like I said, I've got a cutting area this way of about 26 inches. Well, let's say I wanted to cut something that was 40 inches that way. I had to run it the other way. Say it was 40 by 40. Well, I had to run this 40 here. Well, then what I could do with my software is it's called a tiling feature, where you can program it to where it will cut certain parts of it, and then you could stop and slide it through and then restart it and cut the other part.
But how does the machine know? I mean, how do you know? How does the machine know exactly where to put it to restart it?
Well, you have to make sure you pick a good reference point that you're using. And what I like to do is I like to take, like if I'm going to run something through, I've got lines drawn on my table where you know, some that are perpendicular to the X and also parallel to the X. But what I do is I'll take some clamps and just set me up a nice straight board or something as a stop. That way I can mark it, and then I can pull it up a certain distance and then index it again. And then, like I said, you got to have a good reference point where you're starting so that it knows how to overlap those two. Cool. It's a little tricky. It's not as easy as just throwing it on there and cutting it all in one thing, but it can be done.
But so, in other words, you're saying 40, but you could actually cut a piece 8 foot long if you needed to by index.
Yeah, if I really needed to cut something that long, I could, sure.
That's wild. I didn't realize that.
Yeah, I'm really only limited this way because of the two uprights there. Only what I can fit in between there.
Right. And just so everybody will know, if I cough tonight in the microphone, I am totally sorry to y'all on the panel and to the listeners. 2 weeks ago, I got a cold, and I still have the remnants of a cold. Matter of fact, last week I thought Steve Good was going to have to come down here from Kentucky. He said he was going to give me the Heimlich maneuver because I started choking. But I got me some cough drops tonight. I just popped one. I felt the urge to start coughing. So I just wanted to say I'm sorry if I cough in your ear. So, but let's get back to that. That's pretty nice. Now, is there a reason? Hey, I'm asking the question. Is anybody on the panel going to ask anything? Come on, guys. Don't be bashful.
You seem to be doing pretty good.
How intricate can you work at with using that? Like, can you like fine fretwork on it as well, depending on the size of bit you use?
Well, yeah, you could. You talking about frets for like a guitar? Is that what you're talking about?
Like scroll saw work.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I mean, you could do some pretty fine stuff. The problem with trying to make this thing do everything a scroll saw will do is that you can't, obviously, because your bit's round, you can't get into a tight corner. You know, so if I program something that's got a really tight corner, since the bit can't get in there, it will just go as far as it can get in there, and then it'll stop. So, I mean, it'll cut it all, but it'll have those rounded corners. Where with a scroll saw, you don't have that problem. You can cut right up to a fine point.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. In other words, if it's even a 16, what's the smallest bit you can put in that machine?
Well, you can put them really small. The problem is they break really easy when you get them. I've had some that's like a 32nd, and you know, you look at it wrong and it breaks. So, yeah. But the smallest one I typically use is a 1/8 diameter, so that's going to give me a 16th radius in the corners.
Yeah. Okay.
Now
that's
you
what I was getting to. So the smallest about the smallest you can get down to is like a 16th radius, which is scroll saw kick that CNC's butt on that.
Yeah. Now the other thing you can do to get a tight corner is use a V bit. And that's what I forgot to do. I meant to bring my bits over here to show. But anyway, you can use like a 60-degree V bit, but it's still not cutting it. It'll form it up and come to a point, but it's not cutting all the way through to a point like a scroll saw would.
Right. Anybody else?
You mentioned with the guitar about how deep it was going. How deep does the machine cut?
Well, I mean, it'll cut. I mean, I could cut this out. This I think is probably about 1.5 inches, 1.25 inches, something like that. I think most guitar bodies are about 1.25 inches or so. So I could actually cut it if I wanted to with the CNC. I would just need a longer bit. And typically, like right now, I've got a 1/4 inch diameter. It's like an end mill. It's an up spiral bit, and it's probably got the actual cutting length on it is about 1 inch. So yeah, you could buy the bigger bits and cut this. But one thing I want to make sure get across with the CNC. A lot of people think you can just, a CNC is just fantastic and it'll save you time and all that stuff. Well, even though I could cut all this on the CNC, I can cut the templates quicker and then hand route them quicker because I have a small CNC. It's I've just got that's a Porter cable 690 1 3/4 horsepower router, which isn't bad, but it's not like a big commercial CNC router like a sign shop would have or something like that with a big 5 horsepower spindle or something like that. So because of that and because of the limitations of my machine, if I went to cut something this thick, it would, I would have to go down maybe an 1/8, and then, and again, depending on how fast I want to cut it. But, you're talking about a lot of passes to get that. So, yeah, if I didn't have anything else to do, I could set it up and let it go. But it's really quicker on certain, certain things you're making to just use it to make a template. And then that way you've got the template to use over and over again.
Well, that's what I was going to say. In other words, when you're cutting something that thick, 1 1/4, 1.5 inches, it's going to take numerous passes around it to be able to cut all the way through at that thickness.
Exactly. And I use that, I think I might have said this when we were on the other night. I probably use my CNC more to cut templates than I do to actually cut something. I've got right now where I've got this little table rigged up here where I've got this other CNC sitting on it. I made some stackable sawhorses, and you can check out the video if you want to see what I'm talking about. But these are really neat sawhorses. They stack really nice, and you can put them in a corner. Doesn't take up a lot of room. But and the cool thing is you can get all 4 of them out of 1 sheet of plywood. But you would never be able to get them all out of 1 sheet of plywood if you were cutting them on a CNC. What I did is I used my CNC to cut a template for one of the side panels, and it's kind of an A shape, so you have to put one like this and then one like this to mark them on the plywood. Otherwise, you wouldn't get them all out of a sheet. So again, I used my CNC just to cut the one template, and then I use that template to lay out the plywood, and then just rough cut them out on the bandsaw. And then when I got ready to, make them look like they were cut on a CNC, I can just take that template, double side tape it to the pieces I rough cut on the bandsaw, and then use the flesh trim bit in my router table, and you get perfect, sides that are all exactly the same and all that. And it looks like they're cut on a CNC, but it's really just because I cut a template.
Hey, Dave, going back to cutting the thicker projects,
Mm-hmm.
Is there a certain distance of bit that you can use until it starts causing vibration on that CNC?
Well, I don't know. As long as it really depends on the depth of the pass and your feed rate. If you're, because if your bit's long enough and your machine's good and accurate, because mine wouldn't have any problem at all going and cutting something this thick. It would just take several passes, but the repeatability is such that it's, when it's going around here each time and it's dropping down an 1/8 inch or whatever, the repeatability is there. So it's still not any more stress or hard work on that router than it is if it's cutting that first 1/8. Now, if you lose steps or something and it decides to plow into the body, then you got problems because you're cutting way too much for the depth of cut. And what I usually tell people, because I get a lot of questions like, well, how fast can I cut this, and what settings should I use? And personally, I like to cut my stuff really shallow, but a fast feed rate. In other words, like a lot of times, most of the things I cut typically around 80 inches a minute, and I'll usually cut anywhere from a 1/16 to 3/32 or something like that as a depth, whereas I could probably go, an 1/8 inch or something like that as a depth of cut, but then I'd have to slow it down. So to me, it's kind of 6 of one, half dozen of another. But to me, I would rather make the cuts really shallow and just speed up the feed rate to make up for that cycle time. And that way I can, because if you could ever be out here in my shop and watch me, I get something on this thing, set it up, and I hit the button and I go somewhere else. I might be on the other end on my drill press or working on my table saw or a router table or doing some sanding or something. I'm not one of those guys that sits around and watches it. They're cool to watch, but I'm all over that. To me, I use this thing as a helper to make me, you know, like somebody else is running it and I'm doing something else. So, and that's one thing I like about the CNC is you can just set it up, hit the button, and go do something else. In fact, one night, believe it or not, I was on a Hangout and I was on the Google Hangout in my house, which, you know, my shop's probably you know, a good 100 steps from where my computer is in the house, and I actually had a job out here running, and I would just kind of, you know, click off, mute myself and click off and come out here and check on it every once in a while and then go back in the house. And I was running a big one of those big Mayan calendar things that has a cycle time of about 3 or 4 hours. So but I just let it run.
I think that's the biggest what do I want to say, misnomer, if I guess is the way to put it, about the CNC is people think that once you put a project in it, that it's fast. You know, it's going to boom, it's going to cut it, and it's going to be done. But that's not necessarily true. If it's a thin piece of product or a wood that you're putting in there, then yeah, it actually is going to cut it fairly fast. But if you're cutting something really thick or even complicated like that box you showed us with that lid, it's going to take a while. Matter of fact, how long did it take to cut that lid of that box?
Well, I was running the program not to do the whole profile or anything else, but just this V-carve part. And I was just kind of dry running that new machine I built. And I think the cycle time for that was, I want to say about 10, 12 minutes, something like that.
Well, that's not too bad then.
That's not bad at all.
Now, I think Russ Meadows, I think you had a question you were going to ask him too.
Well, I was just wanted to see if he could kind of narrow down the types of bits that's most commonly used, or does that just basically depend on what you're cutting and what you're doing with it? Can you give an assortment of bits that somebody would need just getting started?
Okay. If you can hold on 1 second, let me take this off and I'll walk over here and grab my bits and then we'll go through some of those.
And while Dave is gone, I'm going to dance for you. No, I'm just kidding. But we could get Donald to dance, though.
I was going to say, hey, that's my shtick.
Okay. This is my little thing. One, like I mentioned, I have a 1/4-inch diameter up spiral bit. I use that a lot. I use a lot of 1/4-inch diameter. Some of them they might be an up spiral. Some of them they might be a down spiral. Some of them are just straight cutters like this. This is just a 2-flute straight cutter. And actually, if you look close at my bits, you'll see that all of them are just about burn up. I really need to place an order and get some new stuff. I use that a lot, mostly for just doing 2D stuff. If I'm cutting out parts or templates in MDF or something, or in HDPE, this little plastic stuff, I'll use
hold them up
just
to the camera so if we could see if we could get us look at them.
Oh, okay. Well, this is just a. Am I holding it right where you can see it?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Cool.
You can see that one's pretty well.
Yeah, I see.
Pretty well had it.
Coloration on the bottom. That means it's taking some heat.
I do router bits like you do sandpaper, Russ. I don't ever throw anything away. I just
just cut the bottom off of it and you keep using it.
Yeah, but here is one. Well, this one's kind of rough looking, but this is actually one that's like what's in there, and this is a an up spiral. And again, that one's really burnt up on the bottom.
So first off, let me so I'm not ignoring the people over in the chat section. Katie Dotson asked, I know nothing about CNC. What language do you use to program it?
Well, most of them use a G-code language, which is pretty universal with all kinds of CNC equipment, whether it be CNC routers, CNC lasers, mills, lathes, all that kind of stuff. They all use kind of sort of the same G-code. The neat thing, Katie, about G-code is if you get a CNC router and you buy some software like Vectric or Bobcat, or there's a bunch of different ones out there, you really don't have to know anything about G-code to be able to run the machine. The programming software generates all the G-code, and that's what you feed to the machine to make it run. You really don't have to know anything about it. It helps a little bit if you know what G0 is and G01 and G02 and all that kind of stuff, but it's really not necessary. You don't have to know a thing about G-code to run a machine.
And then John Turner, I think he's referring back to the guitar.
Okay.
Like, how long would it take to cut that from start to finish compared to the template? In other words, you got a template there of the guitar. As I'm trying to imagine what he's saying, and then you've got the full body already cut out. What's the difference in time on cutting each one of those?
Oh, gee. Well, it'd be hard for me to say because I didn't cut this. And again, when you have, I guess y'all can see these pockets here.
Yeah, they're pretty deep.
Yeah, well, they're probably, I don't know, probably 3/4 inches or so deep. But the thing of it is, if, like, I could use a 1/4 inch parting tool, provided it was long enough, to part this out. But if you use that same 1/4 inch tool to hog all this out, it's going to take a while. So you either have to just set it up and go and do the one tool, or you have to do it in multiple programs and say, okay, I'm going to put a big bit, maybe a 1/2 inch diameter or something, whatever would fit in this radius. I hope I'm holding this stuff where you can see it.
Yeah, we can see it.
So you could do that. Whatever tool would fit in there, you want to put your biggest tool in there to hog all that out, and then you come back and do a tool change and cut this other part out.
So 3 or 4 hours to complete that whole big piece?
I don't know if it would be that long. It would probably, I'm guessing, if I did a tool change, used a bigger bit to mill these pockets and then another one to cut this, I'm thinking it'd probably do it in, I don't know, probably less than an hour, 45 minutes maybe.
And then how long does it take to cut the template?
Well, I cut these templates out of 1/2 inch MDF, which, that stuff cuts like butter. You get a good sharp bit in there, so it doesn't take any time at all to cut this. And plus, these are all through holes. I'm not doing pockets. So it's just hogging it out.
Okay. Well, that's all the questions from on the YouTube for right now. So that's.
I got one. As far as the computer program or the file you use to do one project, about how much storage space does one take up?
The actual program file doesn't take up much space at all because it's just a simple text file, kind of like a note. You could open it up in Notepad, something like that. So text files don't take up a lot of space. I use V-Carve Pro for my programming software, and that file probably takes up a little bit more simply because it's remembering all the tool paths, the tool library, and some graphics in there. But still, the file size, isn't much. To give you an idea, I've got, and I always tell people this too, when you're doing these homemade CNC type machines, you don't need a brand new computer to run this thing. I have this thing is an old E-machine that I've had for years. I don't even know how old it is. I mean, it's got Windows XP on it, but it's not anything fancy. And I don't have any problem running my machine with it. Or I also have my V-Carve Pro out here. Usually when I do my programming, I program in the house just because I have a faster computer in there. So when I'm simulating the program, it's just like that. And then I'll put it on a flash drive and bring it out here and put it into this computer, because I don't have this one on the Wi-Fi or anything. But when I find out I forgot something and I have to go tweak something in V-Carve Pro, I can use this machine, but it's a lot slower to process the file and simulate it, just because this is an old machine.
Rick Hutchinson asked, how do you clamp the wood to the table? Do you have a sacrificial table on the main table?
No. Let me see if I can switch to this other camera. Maybe y'all can see this.
You're going to switch it and smoke's going to shoot out of your computer.
Okay, there you can see.
Oh, wow, that's good. Yeah, we can see it.
Let's see. Set this down here. Okay, what I did is when I built my machine, it's got just some channels that are bolted through here. I've got 5 of them actually that form the table part of my machine. And then what I did is I've got 2 sheets of 3/4 MDF, and you can see where I've milled these 3/8 dados in here to put these little T-tracks from Rockler. And then I use, let's see which camera I'm on here. I use these little clamps from Rockler to hold down my work. But I also, you notice if you look at my table, there's other than the pencil marks I made on here putting those lines, there's really not anything, you don't see any cut marks or anything like that. And I've tried to be careful not to screw that up. But when I was building and selling these machines, I always used to cut a lot of 1/2-inch HDPE. So I have a ton of skeletons. This is just a small section. And all this is a skeleton of where I've cut out different parts. Well, this HDPE is really, when you mic it, it's right at a 1/2 inch. And so what I'll do is I have different size pieces. So depending on what my work piece is, I usually put this stuff underneath it, then line it up with the lines I have on here just to get it straight. And then I also put my work piece on top of that, and then clamp all of that down. So, for example, if when I cut this 1/2 inch MDF, when I program it, I usually would tell it to go to a depth of 0.53, 30 thousandths over a half. And so that way, it's not such a big deal when you're cutting MDF, because MDF is usually right at a 1/2 inch. But if you get a board and it's 3/4 or something, it may be 3/4, it may be 0.72, maybe 0.78 or whatever. But usually what I do as a rule of thumb is I always go 30 thousandths over when I'm going down the depth. That way it won't hurt if it cuts into this. In fact, I guess you can see that. I don't know. It's got all kinds of little cut marks and stuff on it.
Yeah. And
like I said, I got all different sizes of these. And after a while, when they get really kind of beat up, then I just throw them away and I go get another one, because I've got, like I said, I got a ton of these in my garage from when I was building these machines before.
Anybody got any questions on the panel? Oh, everybody's shaking their head no.
Okay, well, let me just show you something too. Oftentimes I'm asked, will this thing cut aluminum? It will cut aluminum.
Cool.
That's 3/8 6061. I wouldn't want to cut a lot of it with this machine, but again, given enough time, a shallow enough pass, you can pretty much cut it. Steel, nope, you're not going to cut steel with mine. it certainly wasn't designed for. And I really didn't design it to cut aluminum. But one day I thought, you know what? Everybody's always asking me. I'm just going to try it and see. So I ordered a piece of 3/8 6061 aluminum and just cut a few little parts, and worked out pretty good. But because you're not, you know, like if you were cutting this out on a mill, you would probably have some kind of cooling fluid going on the bit, you know, regular CNC mill. So since I'm using a router, and really it's really turning way too many RPMs to cut this anyway. So what I would do is I would have the depth of cut of about 10 or 15 thousandths, and then just really speed the feed rate up so that it's keeping that bit, you know, as cool as I can keep it. Because if you go too slow, it gets too hot, the bit gets too hot, or if you try to cut too much at a time, it's going to get too hot and gum up. But yeah, you can cut aluminum with it too if you got enough time to wait on it.
Dan Inglewood asked, how long does it take to set up a file before you can run it on the CNC?
Well, that would kind of depend on whether or not you're, you know, is he talking about designing something or drawing something, or you just got?
I'm hypothetical. I ain't Dan, so I don't know. But what I'm thinking is, in other words, you've made the file, you've made the design or anything. How long does it take to come in, put it in the machine, and actually get the machine to start cutting it? And
you're just
set up. The setup time, in other words, everything.
Yeah, you're talking minutes.
Really?
Yeah, it doesn't take long at all. At least with the software I use. If I've already got a drawing, you know, like a DXF file or something that I can import into that software, it only takes me a few minutes to put, you know, the different tool paths on that, and you know, and then bring it out here and plug it up and you know, generate the G code, and it's ready to go.
Wow, that's impressive. John Turner, he put on here, and I hate to even ask you this, Dave, but you knew it was going to come up before it was over. The night was over. I know a lot of folks have the X-Carve. What comparison do you have to make between your machine and the X-Carve? In other words, what cycle time for the same project using your machine and the X-Carve? I think what he's saying, if you had to cut the same piece out on the X-Carve and cut it out on your machine, what would be the difference in cycle time? First, I don't think you can tell with the X-Carve because you've never used one, but go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I can only go by what I see people post on Facebook and in the different forums that I read, you know, that have an X-Carve. You know, I don't know, you know, I haven't ever seen anybody say they're cutting the speeds I usually cut. And if they are, then they're certainly cutting like 10 thousandths at a time or something like that. I don't know. Is there anybody here on the panel? Tommy, you've got an X-Carve, I think, don't you?
Yeah, maybe sometime we can get the same file together and have a little test.
Okay. Okay. Well, can you
I'm pretty sure it's a lot slower than your machine, but I couldn't tell you. I mean, the same exact file. I don't know.
Okay. Well, just I don't know how much you've used your machine, but just in the stuff that you've cut, what has been like the average feed rate and depth of cut that you use?
The average feed rate with the stock spindle, I'm normally cutting about 30 as the feed rate.
Mm-hmm.
Depth of cut, I'm usually going about 0.02 at the most.
Okay, and what would the material be? What kind of material are we talking about?
I've cut pine, I've cut oak.
Okay, so for pine or oak, then you're cutting about 30 inches a minute at about 20 thousandths per pass.
Yeah.
Okay. Typically, what I cut, and I have my tool library set up that most of my tools, I have them set up to cut 50 inches a minute. And I have it set that slow purposely because with Mach 3, there's an override button. So what I always do is I'll go ahead and program it slower, and then I'll get it set up, and then once I hit the button and I make sure, I see that the bit's cutting fine and all that, then I can bump that up. And I typically would cut, like pine or oak, I would cut it about 80 inches a minute and at least a 1/16 deep, if not more.
Yeah, I know that with the X-Carve now, it comes stock with that DeWalt 611, and a lot of people have switched over to that, and I hear it's getting about 60 to 80 as a feed rate.
Yeah.
So,
I just bought one of those DeWalt 611s for this new machine that I've built, and I can see why everybody's switching to that has the X-Carve. That's because I didn't hear much good at all about their stock spindle.
No, those stock spindles were junk.
Yeah, I was going to say, I just by looking at them, you didn't have to even do anything but look at them and tell that they were totally inadequate for what I would feel would be for the machine.
And you'd look at them and they'd burn up.
And correct me if I'm wrong, Tommy, but didn't the stock spindle, doesn't it just have, you can only put like a 1/8 diameter in those?
Yeah.
Okay.
Now the DeWalt router you're talking about, still, that's only a trim router. That's not a full-fledged 1.5, 2-horse machine, right?
No, it's a smaller, I guess they call it a compact router or something.
So what's the horsepower? Half? 3/4?
I don't know. I can go grab mine real quick.
I've got one sitting right here. I don't know if it's on here or not. Let's see.
Yeah, I'm curious because
yeah, I think I probably already thrown the box away because I've got it mounted on this machine. But yeah, I don't know what it is. I think it's like 1 1/4. I want to say
1 1/4. What was the name the number of it again? The DeWalt
611. I believe it's 1 1/4 horsepower.
I'm gonna try to look it up on the internet.
And a nice thing about it too is this is it's variable speed, which my old 690 is just, it's either wide open or nothing. So.
Okay, next question is, if nobody else has one on the panel, I'm going to be looking up the horsepower of that, so I'm not.
Okay.
I think Tommy just took off to go get his.
Okay, well that'll be great too.
1 1/4.
Here
1 1/4.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, John. So it's actually more than what I thought it was. I wasn't even thinking it would be a horse.
Yeah, when I first got on Amazon and started looking, because I knew that's what I wanted to put on this new machine. I was a little bit surprised too that it was that much, and it's a lot. I can tell you, it's a whole lot quieter than this 690.
Yeah. Since we're on that subject, Dave, what is the biggest? I mean, can you put a bigger router on there, like a 2-horse or machine on that? Because what they did, that one that you have on there, what is that? A 1.5 horse?
This is a 1 3/4. And if you look here, I have a really nice machined aluminum router mount, and I did not make that. I got that from a company called K2 CNC, and from what I understand, I was actually looking to see if I could get a mount for that DeWalt 611 for this new machine, and I believe they've gone out of business, but there's another company, and I swear I can't think of the name of it right now. But I think the guy that worked at K2 CNC now went to that company, and they still make some router mounts. But anyway, you can get these different router mounts for different size routers. And in fact, I could get and I just bought one for Jason's machine, and that was the Porter Cable. I think the number on it's 892, and it has. This was 1 3/4 horsepower. It had 2 1/4 horsepower, and it had the variable speed. It was a lot. It's a lot more router than that one is.
No.
But yeah, I could put as long as I can get a mount to make it fit on here. My gantry and all is strong enough to put pretty much whatever I want on there.
Right. Next, what is HDPE? What is it used for? HDPE stands for high density polyethylene, and it's just, you can get these sheets from McMaster. This is just a piece of drop, really, what this is, but you can get them in different thicknesses. I've got some 1/4, 3/8. This is half. I've got some I got
big old chunk of 3/4 right here. But you can, it's neat to make stuff out of these plastic parts because this is really solid. It's really smooth. If you're going to use it for some kind of a guide, like you could make some little runners for a table saw sled or something with this. This stuff is just really slick.
What is but what is the main purpose of it used for? Just make stuff out of, period?
Yeah, I mean, if you go to like Wally World and pick you up a cutting board, it's probably made out of this kind of stuff.
Okay.
When I was cutting meat or cutting tables, the boards were made out of that stuff.
Yeah, yeah. I just like it because you can drill and tap it. You can, I mean, it's pretty neat little material, and it's not too terribly expensive.
Great. Next is Rick Hutchinson. Rick says, I run a 1/32 bit for 1/8 inch Baltic birch plywood and cut it about 30 inches per minute on his machine. And he said that's the full depth one pass. In other words, you can go a 1/32 inch bit, 1/8 inch Baltic birch. You can do it in one pass at 30 inches per minute.
Okay, 1/8 inch thick, you said?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. That's pretty good.
He also said his uses a PC trim router with an 1/8 inch shank. Oh, I say that real quick, 3 times. With 1/16 bits on 1/4 inch ply, and he cuts it at one pass at 20 inch per minute. Yeah, Rick Hutchinson. He should be on the show tonight. If he get on Facebook, I'll send him the link. But he should be on the show. He's got a CNC machine also.
What kind does he have? Do you know?
I don't know. I don't remember. But Rick, if you're listening, I'm going to open up Facebook over here. So,
what's the average RPM that you run yours at? Because like my Bosch router is variable speed from 10 to 25,000. It's a 2.3 horse. Like, would it work on that, or is it too powerful?
No, you could use that. Now, mine, what I have on here is a Porter Cable 690, and it doesn't have variable speed. So the RPM is, I don't know what it is on those things. 20. Somebody could probably look it up or something. But it's just wide open when I turn it on. It's just one speed.
Rick Hutchinson, if you're listening to me, I have PM'd you the link on Facebook, so you're welcome to join us if you want to.
Who do you use for your router supply? Or do you prefer certain brands, or are you brand loyal, or?
No, I don't. Nobody sends them to me, if that's what you're asking. No, I use I shop online a lot. I love Amazon, so I get whatever they've got. But I still try to get a fairly decent brand name. I like to use CMT. They're they're probably a little more expensive than some. I've ordered some at a place called routerbits.com, and they usually sell Whiteside, which are pretty good. And I have been guilty of buying the little cheap set of stuff at Lowe's or Home Depot and stuff, and you get what you pay for there.
I'm pretty partial to Freud, but
that's another good one. Yeah, I forgot about those. That's another good one.
Okay.
Let me check the time here. Oh, 8:52. There's Rick Hutchinson. How you doing, Rick? Dave was asking. You're muted, by the way. Dave was asking what kind of CNC machine you have. So unmute yourself and.
Okay, mine was special built. It was a prototype built by a guy out of Kansas City, who I can't even find anymore. So I don't know whether he died or what happened. But I'm running 1/8 inch bits all the time. I use the solid carbide bits. I order from Precise Cut out of Colorado, and I'm just using the Porter Cable trim router. It's set up more for fine work. He originally designed it to do printed circuit boards, So it's set up for doing more of the fine work. I don't try to run the 1/4 inch and 1/2 inch bits in it at all.
I see.
It's got a 30 by 30 bed on it. And at the time he made it, he told me the accuracy was 3 thousandths over the 30-inch bed.
That's impressive.
I've used a 1/8 inch 60-degree bit and actually do almost scrimshaw work, little roses and stuff that are 1/4 inch wide by 3/8 inch tall, with all the petals cut into it and everything. So I mean, it'll do some super detailed stuff. But I've never tried doing the big bits on it.
Well, guys, we're winding. I'll get it in a minute. I got a cough drop in my mouth. By the way, I was trying to cough again. Somebody asked just real quick, because I got a couple of things I want to cover. John Turner asked, Dave, tell us about your fabricator, garage work, CNC, what are available machine sizes and cost. And by the way, you were supposed to make an announcement tonight too, so we're rocking down to the end of the show if you want to make that announcement.
Well, that was kind of going to be it, I guess. I did manage to squeeze in a quick video and got it uploaded just before I come out here to get on the show. But yeah, just so people know, if anybody has followed my YouTube channel for very long, they know that I've done the video series on how to build a CNC, and the reason that all came about is, I'd be out here in my shop shooting a YouTube video, and I would always get, somebody make a comment like, well, yeah, that's easy for you to do, you got a CNC, and I just, I kept thinking, it's really not that big a deal to have a CNC. It's not that hard. If you want one, you can make one. They're not, it's not rocket science. So after so many comments and everything, I thought, well, I'm going to do a video series and show people how they can build a CNC. It's just a simple plywood construction and still have an accurate machine. So I did that video series about 1.5 years ago, I guess. And, I give away the plans. I've sent out to date probably somewhere, I've lost count. I know it's over 4,000 sets of plans for that thing. And it seems like for every 10 sets of plans I send out, at least 5 people will email me back and go, I want to build that machine, but I don't really want to cut the parts. Can you cut them for me? And and I don't have time, and nor do I want to spend all day out here cutting plywood parts. Now, if I had a full, where I could throw a full 4x8 up there, maybe it'd be different, but I would have to cut it down into blanks to fit on my machine, and it's just I'm not gonna cut parts. So I've just had
it, Dave, why don't you go ahead and put it together and take it to them too?
Yeah, well, I mean, I've just had so many people ask me that, and I got to thinking. I thought, well, I used to build and sell these, and then when the economy kind of crapped out in 2008 or whatever, I kind of slacked off and just quit advertising. And I haven't really, even thought about getting back into it much. But I have had so many people ask me about, do you sell these as kits? Can you cut parts? Can you do this? And I thought, well, if I'm going to get back into the CNC business, I'm gonna design another, because that's my full-time gig. That's what I do. I'm a sheet metal guy. So I designed this little machine that you might have seen in a video or this picture on Facebook or whatever, and that's going to be the first of 3 different sizes. And what I plan to do is offer that kind of like a rolling chassis. In other words, you could buy the components where you can put this thing together with the V-groove bearings, and you've got the slides and everything, and it's ready for lead screws, Acme nuts, stepper motors, controller, all that good stuff. I'm kind of leaving it where I'll sell it as like a DIY kit. People could shop around and get their own stuff. Or if they don't want to do that and they want a full turnkey unit, I can do that as well. Although, you know, when I draw up these plans, you know, the assembly drawings and all this on how to put these things together, it will have detailed drawings on and spec'd out different controllers. You know, anybody, you know, if you wanted any kind of a NEMA 23 controller, you might not like the company I use. You can go shop around and get your own. That's fine. If you want to put a different lead screw on there than what I do, that's fine. You know, but you know, again, they can either buy it just as the foundation to build their machine, or they can order as much stuff as they want, and I can do it all for them. But the machine that is in that video has it's a small machine, would fit easily on a workbench. It's the cutting area is going to be about 24 by 18. The whole footprint's not much over, I don't know, about 32 by 36 or something like that. It's not very big at all. That's going to be the small one. I've already worked on another model that's going to have a cutting area of about 36 by 24. So you got, you know, a little bit bigger there. And then I probably will do one more that will be 48 by something, probably 48 by 40, maybe 48 by 48, something like that. But yeah, I just decided to start doing these because I get so many people, and I know there's a lot of people out there wanting a CNC, and it's really not out of their reach. You know, at least if I'm trying to make it where it's not out of their reach anyway.
Another good thing about building your own CNC too is you know every inch of that machine, and if something goes wrong, you know how to fix it. You know how to change a part out and whatnot. Yeah. So
yeah,
it's fun building these things too.
Yeah, there's no substitute for, you know, experience putting your own machine together. To give you an idea, right now my laptop is sitting on the table of that new machine. At 3 o'clock this afternoon, the parts to that machine were sitting outside on a little makeshift paint hanging fixture I made. So I got up this morning and painted the parts, and I was basically waiting for paint to dry. And then, so just from 3 o'clock to, what, 7 o'clock, I took all those parts, brought them back in here, put them back together, fired it up, tested it, you know, shot the video, all that in just a little bit of time. And it's because I built so many of these things, I know how I like to build them, so I kind of build them the same way all the time. It's just different sizes and a little bit different, you know, a few design tweaks here and there.
That's cool, because yeah, I can't do it right now, especially with Christmas coming up. But after the first of the year, or you know, sometime next year, I may be looking you up on getting one of these. I've been talking about it. I'd like to have one. I'm not even going to attempt the X-Carve. I mean, that's just, to me, that's just a waste of time and money. I'm sorry. That's just my thoughts, my feelings. So
hey, I've already hit up Dave about getting one of his plans too. I may use the X-Carve to make a real CNC. So.
Yeah, make sure you shoot a YouTube video while you do it.
One question that I have for you that did not come up tonight, and I know we're going to run a few minutes over, but I think it'll be all right.
I got all night.
Okay, is this now? That being said, the software that you use for that CNC machine, that's not free, is it?
No. Now there's, and I'm glad you brought that up, Russ, because for people that might be watching that don't know anything about CNC, there's really two different kinds of software I have to run this machine. One is Mach 3 software, which is what I call controller software. That's what you install on your computer, and it makes it look like, if I can turn this camera around and switch this, I give people a view of my... Okay, are we on it there? Well, let me just pull this thing out.
It takes a few seconds for it to...
Okay, so there's there's my screen with Mach 3, and it basically just makes your computer look like a CNC controller, which basically that's what it is. So that's one kind of software you have to have. The other kind of software that you don't have to have, but it's really nice to have, is programming software. And I have always been a fan of Vectric software. They don't pay me anything to say that. But I use V-Carve Pro. I've been using it for probably 10 years. And it will do like 2.5D, V-carving, intricate V-carving like that Paradise box I showed you, as well as 2D stuff. And I mean, it'll do a big variety of stuff. And it's not cheap. I think when I bought it, I want to say it was like $600. So a lot of people would go, "Wow, that's a lot of money," and it is. But it is great stuff. Anything that's less, to me, you can't really compare Vectric software like V-Carve Pro or especially Aspire. You can't really compare it to anything else out there because it's just not as good. It's really not. There's a lot of stuff cheaper, but you won't find anything any better.
So, how much was the other software now?
The Mach 3, the controller software, I believe it's $175 for a full version.
So you're looking at $775. You're probably looking at $800 or $900 with tax or whatever.
Yeah. Now, like I said, you don't have to buy that fancy software. There's stuff. There's all kinds of software out there, and there's probably some free stuff too. Although you usually get what you pay for when you get it free. But Vectric has stuff called Cut 2D. So if you were just wanted a CNC and you were just going to cut little widgets like this or something, 2D profile cutting, that would be fine. And I think that software is about $100.
Yeah.
And again, the nice thing about the software is you don't have to know anything about G-code. When you hit the post processor button and tell it to post the code, it knows what to put to make your machine run correct.
Well, I did want to bring that up before we finished the show tonight because I didn't want people to think that you buy the CNC machine and that's it. You have to buy the software to run the CNC machine.
Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of like when you go to buy a computer. You can't just buy a computer and bring it home and everything works. You've got to have an operating system, and then you've got to have applications. And, before you know it, you've spent more money that way. And that's really all software is. It's just an application you need to get good use out of your machine.
Exactly. Just because you buy the computer that has the operating system on it, it doesn't mean it's all the programs. You got to buy a word processor, you've got to buy video editor, you've got to buy vector graphics like Corel Draw. You got to buy all those programs to add to the computer. So, so great. Well, I think that's pretty well it. Just real quick, though, we're not gonna since somebody kind of like is newbie to the to coming on, we have what we call woodshop confessions. Everybody, I think, on the panel knows what a woodshop confessions are. Rick Hutchinson might not know, but anyway, that's where you tell something that you've done in your shop that you got a boo-boo off of, or woodshop confessions. So, Donald, since you're like the new guy, Connie, you got any woodshop confessions you want to tell us about?
Yeah, the knife I won from. It's sharp. So I'm using it to mark some wood, and I'm holding the ruler down, and I'm pulling it down, and I get it right there, just about an inch from my finger, and I just got to try and get that extra little centimeter, and I pull it back, and the next thing I know, I feel it cutting through my finger.
Oh.
Yeah, if y'all haven't,
I got video. Trust me.
Yeah, he's got video. He's got it authenticated, so to speak. It's on video.
Well, you didn't get blood on the workpiece, did you?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, you did.
I'm gonna charge an extra $10 for that because it's stained in blood. No?
Got DNA on it now.
It's more valuable.
And the bad part about it is the night I won it, somebody said something about don't cut yourself with it, and sure enough, not thinking, being stupid.
Well, here, I'll bless you now, Donald, that you won't have any more problems.
Thank you, sir.
But I did, whenever he cut himself, I was thinking to myself, now, did he not know that that's a razor blade in that thing?
I did. I just, trying to get that extra little bit, and naturally, that's the point. The one time that it slips a little bit further than you expected it to.
Yeah, trust me, been there, done that. It always happens when you're trying to do a little bit more than you should be doing, or get that extra little bit, and then it always seems to bite you in the butt.
Which I've been lucky. Usually, even all these years of cutting meat and all that, I'll cut the snot out of myself with a knife or a blade like that, but I've never cut it on the saw. I say that since I'm not going to be using the saw for the next few days.
All right, guys. Well, I appreciate all y'all being on the panel tonight. Let's see, what have they got? Anything? Oh, know what, Mom Shelley over at Know What Mom Knows. She says, "Oh, Donald, ouch." Well, it's a good thing that Russell blessed you. Yeah, I blessed him to keep. Yeah, we do that wood shop confessions every once in a while. Anybody got any else? Got any wood shop confessions they want to confess this week? Nope. At least you're not going to tell the truth, right?
I think I've been pretty safe lately. I don't think I have anything.
Yeah, I've been pretty safe.
What I did the last time.
I don't have any accidents to talk about, but I can show you what happens if you make your tab when you're cutting these little things out, and you make your tab too small.
Ouch.
It broke out and bit got hung up in it.
Did it go slinging around?
No, it didn't throw it at me. It just kind of chewed it all up. But that's what happens when you don't make your tabs strong enough. This was some maple, and the tab that I cut the first one, and it had a real healthy tab, and I thought, well, let me trim that down a little bit, and I made it too small, and it started to bust one out.
Very good.
Let's see when that happens.
For any of y'all that are listening or interested, from now on, the time for the show, just to make sure everybody understands it, it's going to be at 8 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. That's my time. So you'll have to kind of like figure it out for the rest of your times, because trust me, I'm not that educated that I can sit here and tell you what the time is on the West Coast right now. I know there's a 3 hour difference when I used to talk to my son. So if we quit here,
6:11 right now.
Yeah. So all right, guys, I appreciate you all being on the show. I'm not quite sure what we're going to do next week. I've got a couple of people I've been contacting about being on the show next week, but I haven't heard from them. So we'll have a show next week. Don't get me wrong. Even if we have to just pull out the banjos and the guitars and the drums and have a singing contest. So we'll have a show.
Already got the guitar.
We'll have a show one way or another.
I live too close to the river to be pulling out banjos.
Yeah. But thank everybody. I thank everybody for being on the panel. Thanks, Dave. Fantastic information. I think a lot of people. I've been watching over here, them chattering in the chat section on YouTube, and a lot of people had a lot of good questions. I think learned a lot about CNC. Big difference between your machine and the X-Carve, trust me.
Yeah. Big difference.
I got one question for Dave. That one you were testing on and you just got painted up, that was mine, right?
It might have your name on it. We can talk about that. Let me check my PayPal account, see if there's anything in there. Well,
yeah. And then thanks for all y'all guys over there. I've been watching over there. Leland Hill said it's 2:12 a.m. where he's at. Oh Lord, UK. UK is 5 hours ahead of us.
Wow. Leland is a trooper. I'm telling you, he's.
Yeah, he is. Sitting up and watching us tonight. Who else? Shelly. She said she was sorry about being late. We'll forgive you, but next week you got to be on time. So somebody said I can play the radio if someone else will tune it. Katie Dotson said I'll play the radio. But I appreciate all y'all watching. I think we had a great show tonight. I'm glad your internet got fixed because
it's good.
Yeah, you had a very clear picture, very nice tonight. Even my internet is cleared up a lot. Last week I noticed when I watched my show back on the rerun, so to speak, I was really my mouth would move, and 2 seconds later you'd hear it come out, and then plus it was real fuzzy. But
you haven't been fuzzy at all tonight, Russ.
That had to do a lot of that had to do with weather. We had really bad storms rolling through last week at the show. So, well, let's close this out. Thanks everybody for being here. Thank you for watching. And if you remember only one thing, if you're too darn busy to get out in your shop and make some sawdust, you're just too darn busy. Y'all have a nice night, and God bless.
Good night.
Good night.